Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our new Pivot in Progress episode today. Um, there's a lot of change happening in tech right now, and there are plenty of articles, media, press releases, even workshops that are being done to talk about what this changes and how AI and other major trends are impacting the current landscape. But the angle that we are taking for today's workshop is more from the career perspective of people. So we are going to have two really experienced professionals within tech consulting space, Hrishikesh Kunte and Mokshita Vashisht, who are backstage. We will be bringing them on in a matter of seconds, but the focus will be on helping you understand how to become a successful tech consultant given all of the changes that are currently happening in the landscape. So, with that said, I will bring Rishikesh and Mokshita here. Hi, both. Welcome again. How are you both doing?
Hey, hi, Arjun. You're doing good. How are you?
All good, all good. So, before we dive into this, I think it would be good if we just do a quick round of intros. So I can go first. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Arjun and I'm the founder at Pivot. What we do here at Pivot is primarily help people navigate ambitious career transitions in a smooth and successful manner, and different types of transitions, not just always when you're changing your domain, your industry, but it could be just jumping the career ladder, sometimes returning to the workforce after a gap, or changing countries as well. So we'll talk more about what exactly we do to help people navigate such transitions during the course of this conversation. But I think for now, I'll turn it over to Mokshita. Mokshita, welcome again. And if you could just briefly tell a little bit about your journey and what exactly you do today at PwC, that would be great. I think you might be on mute, Mokshita.
Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
Arjun. Pleasure to be here again with you. Briefly about me, I'm Mokshita. I started my career as an engineer, was working in the industry for quite some time, but then I pivoted to tech consulting, and currently working at PwC as an associate director. My role is primarily around solving business problems for my clients in tech, bringing innovation to them, bringing transformational solutions to them,
Mhm.
and partly I also am aligned in terms of bringing an alliance solution on the table, right? With changing tech and with so much going around, there are experts out in the industry as well, the leaders, so we bring in the partnership side as well. So an alliance solution plus the PwC expertise on consulting and advisory is how we go about the approach and sell it to our customers. That's about me. Thank you.
Perfect. Great. Thanks, Mokshita. Rishikesh, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Hrishikesh. I am a partner with Boston Consulting Group. I've also, just like Mokshita, I've worked in the industry for quite some time, and currently with BCG for almost 3 years now. Before that, I've had my own startups and I worked with industry in the financial services. I've been with Zomato. So very interesting experience. I've actually changed industries, switched industries, kind of had multiple responsibilities as part of my profile from not just tech product but also online business, online sales as well. So it's been an interesting journey.
All right, great. Thank you for sharing that. So let's get started. I think the way I want to tee up this discussion is before we dive into all the major trends and how they are impacting the landscape today, for people who might be relatively new, some of them might be starting their careers, even though most of our community is mid-career professionals, but sometimes people are just starting out as well. Maybe we can just help them structure what is the difference between tech consulting versus other opportunities that are adjacent to it that might exist in the market today. So it could be, let's say, for example, perhaps GCCs, it could be maybe even product tech startup organizations or MNCs, large tech organizations. So, Mokshita, we'll start with you. If you could just help us, from your perspective, see, like, show us what is the current and the upcoming landscape in terms of tech opportunities for mid-career professionals.
Sure, Arjun. So, starting with, how you wanted to structure, right? How is tech consulting different from the adjacent roles that are available? I myself come from a GCC background. So I was working for a GCC in Bangalore, in the tech space itself, right? So from my personal experience, I believe that, when you are in a particular tech role for a GCC, or, maybe even if it's a, tech product management of sorts, you are actually aligned to a particular technology, or say a two or three technologies that you work across, right? Your sector, your streams, your function units are very structured and in a unidirection, right? But while when we go to tech consulting, right, it's not about coding, right? It's not
Mhm.
about IT or coding. It's more about how you use technology, and then the whole broad spectrum of technology to solve real world business problems, right? And then your sector also expands. So in a day itself, now I was previously working for the tech, media, and telecom sector a year back. So my day started with solving a business problem, say for a telecom company. Afternoon, I was doing some work for the gaming company, right? And then in the evening, maybe I'm doing something for the media, right? So
Mhm.
there is this fast agility of bringing context to context with technology, and then also understanding the domain of your customers. And this could be any sector. Now I have pivoted to, not just to TMT sector, but now my horizon has also expanded to different sectors as well. So this is the primary difference that I feel, right? So tech consulting is you being more agile and bringing context, being more aware of the technology that is going about, and then bringing in context of the business lens of the customer. um, and
Mhm.
I'm sorry, what was the next question that you said, right? For the mid career
Yeah, I
individual.
mean, I think anything else that you think a mid-career professional has the opportunity to consider as another option, another career option outside of GCC. I think mostly what I'm seeing is product tech roles or large tech roles, those kind of organizations, apart from GCC and consulting.
uh, very of course there's an opportunity out there in the consulting market for sure, because now when they've spent so much time in a particular industry and they
Mhm.
know the nuances of that industry, definitely we can bring them on board, at a level where they bring in the expertise of the sector, right? So now they
Mhm.
have the sector knowledge, and when they come from the industry, they also know what is going about in the industry. So a lot of tech consulting assignments in terms of that domain, and which is precisely what consulting firms I have the expertise in, right? The domain knowledge. So there is a lot of potential for them to navigate and come into a consulting world where they can bring in their domain knowledge, which is not there out there, right? So even for a Microsoft coming up to a PwC or a BCG saying, we want to partner with you and go to your clients or our clients also, for that matter, together, right? So it's because the domain that we bring in, right? The
Mhm.
idea, the way we structure the frameworks that we build in, because tech is there with them, right? But you can't do it all alone with the tech. So I think that
Right.
there's a lot of potential and opportunity out there.
Got it. Rishikesh,
Yeah.
so similar question, slightly different angle. I mean, Mokshita has defined all these different opportunities that exist. What are some of the mental models that one should consider, if there are any that you have used previously or helped others use, to decide that, okay, based on my capabilities as well as where the market is heading in the foreseeable future, this is how I should structure my decision of where my career path should be moving forward?
Sure. So see, I mean, specifically because your even the topic is around tech consulting versus if you want to grow in your own organization, right? So to collate or kind of put the this question in that frame, um, I would say, see, I mean, first you need to really think what is your strength, right? Because if you're working in an industry, depending on where you are in your career, what kind of work you're doing, you like specifically for a mid-career person, you start forming your expertise, whether you like it or not, right? And then if you really want to switch from that expertise, specifically in a domain like tech consulting, you need to really play your cards well is what I would say, because depending on, again, if you are like a back like specific, right? If you are like a software developer and you're doing like back end coding, or you are doing say SRE, or you're doing infrastructure management, cloud security, whatever it is, right? So there, I would say there are roles in consulting which obviously you need people specifically like experts, right? Because that is the need of the hour. As Mokshita rightly pointed out, there is very, I would say, like the consulting firms themselves want to get into coding or would have developer as a role, right? I mean, very few of them might have. But if you are really in a career where you are related to product tech, because a lot of times I get like questions from people that I want to move from a tech role to a product role, or then people who are in product want to move in a tech consulting role. So you need to really understand where your strength is. And the reason I'm saying is, with consulting, you are generalist, but at the same time, you need to develop your specialities. Because when I say generalist, you need to understand the business better, right? Because with if you're doing just the software coding, and I've said this to my teams in my earlier avatars, that when you are coding, don't just think about coding, because when you are working on any product, you are actually contributing to the product and to the business. Because the product on its own is not going to do anything. You are That product is contributing to the revenue of the company in some way or the other, or it may be saving your cost, right? So you need to slightly go broader, think about the business. That is where your generalist understanding comes into picture, that you know the business, or you try to get to know the business. The second layer on top of it is obviously the problem solving, and how do you solve for it, what is the right technology, what is the right framework, etc. So if you apply your understanding of the business and technology at the same time, that is where you start building your generalist layer as a whole. And then, as I said, like you might have your own expertise, right? You say, for example, somebody has worked in cybersecurity for 10 years. Now, obviously, like consulting firms get these questions from their client, that I want to review my cybersecurity, right? Can you come and help me? Or can you find us, like, what are the best practices? Are we using them? So the nature of the projects can vary from client to client, or the roles might vary. But there are requirements where people need expertise. The industry needs expertise. The consulting firms need expertise. So when you are actually thinking of transitioning or looking at a career change, I would say first you need to really put down on a piece of paper that where your expertise lie, where is the opportunity specifically in a consulting firm, and how it can be applied, right? Because in a consulting firm, as again Mokshita pointed out, it's adaptability. Things change, very dynamic. Today, probably in the same day, you're working on three different projects and giving three different advices. But at the same time, you are also kind of gaining expertise, because like in specifically in tech, people look for expertise, right? So you need to be really adaptable and really quickly adjust to the situation, and then put your profile in a way that is kind of in demand, or people are looking for your profile.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think it's a sort of a balancing game where you kind of go deep into one
Yeah,
area versus also
correct.
having, generalist
Yeah.
profile so you can adapt quickly to new technologies, new use cases, kind of a thing. That it's and
Just
it's
on
so
that note,
rapidly. Yeah.
so just on that point, sorry to interrupt you, but on that point, like the tech consulting firms actually allow you to do that, right? Because if you just want to be a cybersecurity expert, you can be a security expert, because there is a demand for that role in the industry, and even the consulting firms want that specialist. You may not want to look after the entire product development, which is fine. It's your choice, right? So you can actually shape up what your expertise are and go very deep into that. But then that becomes your niche, right? And you are kind of irreplaceable in that way if you go really deep.
Yep. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it. No, I think that's helpful. Thanks for sharing that
yeah,
structured approach of thinking about different career options in tech consulting vis-a-vis the other ones. The next thing that I want to touch upon is the biggest elephant in the room, which is AI. We have been seeing major changes on different fronts from tech consulting firms as well as pretty much every organization out there that uh, can adopt technology in any form or fashion. Now we want to understand the impact more from a individual professional perspective. How should they think about the impact of AI, whether it's in tech consulting, whether it's in another adjacent area that they might be working in, um, not just from an upskilling perspective, but to build a long term career path that positions them as strongly as possible for the foreseeable future. So how is AI currently impacting things? Because it's leading to a lot of great opportunities, but at the same time we are seeing that firms like Accenture, who have just announced 11,000 plus layoffs because they believe they can't reskill uh, many of those talent quickly enough, so they're just being laid off, right? And that is not something you can sweep under the rug. That's a huge number, and if one firm is laying off that many, in totality there must be hundred thousands or millions of people who are not being reskilled. So let's cover both the opportunities and the risks that we are seeing from an individual career perspective here. Mokshita, what are your thoughts on this?
See, Arjun, AI is no longer like a choice of whether I should, upskill myself into it or not, right? I personally think that AI is there in everything. And even the clients and customers that we meet, right? They have, so some of the clients, okay, so some of the clients may not have that digital maturity yet. So they look out for a digital transformation and, digital maturity in terms of not even asking for an AI based solution. But a lot of clients, right, more than 50% of them already have achieved a level of digital maturity and transformation layer. Now
Mhm.
where the next question that they come up to us is, what's trending in the market, right? And how can we cope up and catch up to what's trending in the market and with our competition, right? How can we stay ahead of the curve? And AI is that layer, right? So it's no longer a question of whether I should upskill myself or not upskill myself. It's there everywhere, right? As an organization, everyone is investing bits and pieces in it, in terms of, say an investment of opening up a new role, a chief AI officer's role, right? Which might not have existed 2 years back, but now it's there. So
Mhm.
investing in terms of a new role or a new profile, creating a new structure out there, right? Creating a new workforce there, right? Or creating an immersive lab where you bring in your customers to show and tell. So there is an amount of investment that the organization is doing, right? Parallelly, it is also investing in its employees to upskill, right? There are enough programs, there are coachings that are being done, there are partnerships with these LinkedIn's and Coursera's of the world, right? To upskill the employee workforce as well. So the whole idea with AI coming into the picture, it's all about how fast you upskill yourself, right? Again, new roles emerge, but that does not also technically mean that you won't have a job next day, right?
Mhm.
While the number that you quoted, right, for Accenture, that x many number of people were laid off, uh, it's also from the fact, were they contributing to the productivity of the company or not, right? If you're just sitting with an Excel and doing things that can now be done with a prompt, right? In 5 minutes. And if there's an employee who's taking, and it's a whole day job is all about working across an Excel, then the company would feel necessary that I need to repurpose this individual in some shape or form, because now I have already invested in a co-pilot of sorts, right? So there is a new role that I have to carve out for this individual. And while 50% of the time the organization is helping you out to upskill yourself and be prepared for the new roles that are coming up, the next 50, the other 50% of the part is also on us, right? If you are not fast enough, not agile enough to upskill, I think it's not even about AI, right? It's quantum that is also coming up. We don't know how big quantum would be, whether it will be a fad or not, but will it be as big as an AI or not? But new technologies keep coming up every day, right? So there was an internet, there was this blockchain that came up, now there's AI, and then many technologies will come up. So it's also about how agile you are as a person to pick up the challenges, right?
Hmm.
Now, that's where I feel there are roles that are coming up. It's not about I don't have a job the other day, right? I also upskilled myself into AI because that was not an area that I was working in earlier, right? So
Hmm.
and people like me also did, right? People at the partnership level, right? Even the people at the leadership and senior levels are also upskilling themselves, right? Even if their roles are something where you understand, because they have to talk to the industry and they have to be relevant, because
Sure.
they have to also drive their organization at that level. So there's an upskilling that is happening across, and as an
Mhm.
individual you need to actually be focused on where and how you will utilize this as an opportunity and not as like a threat, right? So that's my view on this.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
it's
I
an
think
opportunity.
yeah, no, that's very interesting point. And you talked about people not being able to contribute in the way that they're expected to in the age of AI. You talked about like just you're using Excel that can be easily automated using AI today. Um, Rishikesh, I have related to what Meghna said. I have two, oh sorry, Mokshita said I have two questions, right? One is in regard with this whole upskilling thing. Are people actually who are in thousands not adaptable enough? That's why companies are laying them off because they don't see these folks being able to take up new skills quickly enough? Or is it that AI can just replace them and there is no need to actually reskill them because the job that they were doing is now easily being done by AI? I mean, those are two separate sides of the same coin, perhaps. So,
Sure.
want to understand better what is exactly happening on that front.
Sure. So, see, I mean, it would be slightly, I would say, premature for me to comment on the number here, but I would say it totally depends, right? Because if the work that these people were doing was more of an automation work, then obviously AI can replace that. So the numbers might be huge, but again, it will totally depend on what kind of work were they doing and whether it is like easily replaceable by an AI, and hence the number can also be very high, right? Because again, I mean, India has traditionally been a services hub, and all kinds of services. It is not just software as a service, but also other kind of services, right? Your data warehouse, data entry, and a lot of like back office services and a lot of things. So with that, I would say those 12,000 people, and just for the namesake, I'm saying, uh, obviously need, I would say, including those 12,000 people, everybody needs to be really aware about AI, right? Because it is kind of really happening very fast than expected, and it is already there. I mean, we can't not see it. And with that, I would say ki, you surely need to, anyone really need to understand how it works and need to upgrade and be ready for it. But at the same time, I would say that the AI is still, like, people are still scratching on the surface, right? There is a lot below which is still remains unexplored, which is still there today. I mean, the
Mhm.
potential for the AI as of what we are speaking right now is humongous, but I would say still people are just scratching at the surface and trying to understand what is happening. So
Mhm.
there is a lot that is already there. There is a lot that will come in the future as well. So I think everybody needs to really quickly understand, upskill themselves, and be ready for the next wave of where this goes in whatever direction it is.
So, Rishikesh, sorry to
Yeah,
interject, but are you saying that, let's say, let's take the example of these 11, 12,000 people that
yeah,
have been
yeah, yeah,
fired at
yeah,
Accenture. The
yeah,
reason that was given in media was that, hey, we don't have a way to reskill this portion of our workforce quickly enough.
yeah,
And there are many other layoffs happening where cost optimization is being used as one reason.
yeah,
What Mokshita said, that these people were doing jobs that can be automated. So are we saying that, let's say, these people who are being laid off currently by organization, and by the way, we are working with many of these individuals because they come to Pivot and tell us that they're not finding comparable opportunities very easily in the market. So it's a very you know practical reality of the moment right now for many individuals to grapple with this uncertainty in their careers, right, despite their best effort. So my question is, what would you suggest for these folks, apart from saying that, hey, you should upskill, which I think a lot of people know?
yeah.
Is there anything more concrete or specific that you can tell them that this is what you should be thinking about if you are on the risk of laying off or have been laid off?
Sure. So, see, I would say again, what there is an opportunity in this situation, right? Because uh, I'm just taking an example here. Say, a lot of people till date have been doing freelancing work, right? For ages. It's not like a new phenomena. Let's assume that you as an individual, I'm just giving an opportunity. I'm not exactly talking about the people who are laid off or are on the verge of getting laid off. I'm saying that that person today, because of his day job plus whatever he could accommodate in his 2 hours every day that he used to put in, might have been able to take only one extra project, right? With AI, that person can do the same thing. Like, he can take on 5 projects and deliver it within a week if he's really good at leveraging the tools. Now, similar thing, as I said, like, I mean, one is obviously you need to upskill. There is no option for that, right? So if you are in the industry, whatever role you are at, you really have to understand the power, the potential. What are the tools available, right? So like ChatGPT is not the only tool. Like there are hundreds of tools which have now come up, which are trying to solve different problems or different journeys or different business operations problems, etc., etc. Right? So you need to, depending again where you are, uh, uh, which uh, which role you are into, which industry you are into, and how can you actually leverage some of the things that are already there and build your own skills, right? Because even if we say, like, there is Copilot, there is like there are multiple tools like Lovable, etc., which are already out there. But again, if you really start using them, you understand and learn with it, right? So it's not like the first time, right? So because it's like all game of a prompt, right? It's like kind of garbage in, garbage out. If you don't give it the right prompt, it will not give you the exact output that you are wanting it to give. So it's not just about having a tool, because AI will obviously work on what you are asking it to do, and that asking is the new skill, is what I would say is going to be the new future. Because even in tech consulting, I would say the way things are changing, obviously it's not just about implementation of AI, because I would say most of the things are done by LLM today, right? You don't need to really do anything, but how that LLM should behave, how it should operate, there is a way, there is a method that it needs to be asked to do certain things. Now that is the new skill that you need to really develop. So if you are building a product, if you are like a software engineer who is using a Copilot, or if you are a designer who is trying to get designs done, you need to really understand how can you leverage these tools to make your work faster, right? Because as I said, like if you are in a position where, say, you can become a freelancer and can take on 10 projects instead of earlier you might have been able to take only two, you are actually seeing a big opportunity waiting on the door, and this can be massive, right? So I think there is an opportunity in this situation. I think it is up to everybody's judgment and smartness, I would say, on how they want to leverage it. And you never know, like you can build the best game out there which goes viral, and you can just make money and you can sell it off, right? So there is
Yeah.
an opportunity here, and today you don't need a game development skills, you just need the
Right.
right thing, and you
So I
can
think one of the difference that has happened through AI that you're highlighting is that it's not just about theoretical upskilling. It's like really building demonstrable projects which work and have driven some impact, have
absolutely,
gotten some traction,
absolutely.
and you can do it at scale very rapidly because of AI. So I think that's the differentiator that you're highlighting. Um, so I'll just take a pause here. I see a lot of good questions coming in the chat section. Thank you everyone for already sharing your questions. But I just wanted to take a moment to let everybody know who has joined us today that we will be taking up your questions. Rishikesh and Mokshita will be answering them very shortly. So continue to please share them in the chat section. We'll cover one or two additional topics that are on a lot of people's mind today based on what we hear in our day-to-day work at Pivot. So we'll cover those topics as well, and then in a matter of, I would say, next 5 to 10 minutes, we'll start taking up these questions. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, because we have already been sort of touching it at the surface, is this whole notion of upskilling in AI. Now, a couple of different lenses that I want to look through for this particular topic. One is we have talked about how it's not always dependent on the organization to upskill you. Even though, yes, there are a lot of organizations, as Mokshita you pointed out, that are heavily investing into upskilling their employee base, because if they don't, they will get left behind the competition and probably not even exist in a couple of years potentially. It's an existential threat at this point. um, so, how much of the upskilling, number one, is dependent on the organization versus taking matter into your own hands and saying, you know what, I don't know whether what my organization is doing is actually going to help me in my career or not. So, doing it on your own. And the second thing is, you talked about partnering with the likes of Coursera's and LinkedIn and other, what we call massive open online courses or short form courses platforms like this. Now, there, I mean, it is sort of well understood at this point, Mokshita, that a lot of these platforms, while they provide good knowledge, they don't always result in tangible career outcomes because anybody can take these courses up, right? So a lot of times people go into the or they sign up for a course with the intent that, hey, I'll be able to showcase it on my resume and drive certain positive outcomes for my career, like getting a raise, changing my job, expanding my role, skill set, etc. Doesn't always happen. Actually happens in a fraction of cases. So the second part that I want to target here is, how do people leverage these courses or certain other upskilling avenues to drive tangible outcomes and not just theoretical knowledge and putting it on your resume that I have done this certificate.
See, so Arjun, for your first part, right? How much can we take it into our hands, right? Now, for example, and I've seen it around me as well, right? Couple of my friends and even relatives are into jobs that are not AI as of now for them, right? But they see it coming, that the number of people who were deployed in their project for a particular, tech work that they were doing are reducing, right? So there is, say, a quarterly decrease in the number of people who were deployed to the project. Even the client is now thinking that why can't we move from a technology to an a plus AI technology, right? So that there is also a change from the demand side as well. So now, if as a person who's deployed on a project and is seeing that there is a constant cut in the number of resources, and this is an area which is being overshadowed by AI, I think that is quite alarming for an individual itself to understand, hey, I might be the next one. I don't know for how
Mhm.
long am I here on the project, right? So even if you or your organization or your manager or your supervisor is not directly commanding you to upskill in AI, you know that it is out there. Even for the slightest of the tasks, we go back to a chat GPT or a perplexity saying, I want to do this, help me out there, write an email, I want to draft an itinerary for my next trip or something. If I am into the habit of using a chat GPT for every little task that I do now, why won't my organization do? And it's alarming enough for everybody to understand that this is required, and you need not go into this entire ocean of AI. And so the next question comes in is like, it's so broad, right? Where should I start from? What should I do, right? So it's also about and as Rishikesh was saying, right, it also depends upon the role that you are in, the kind of work you're already doing, right? So if there is a Salesforce engineer who's trying to build applications on Salesforce, and now Salesforce has an agent force on its platform itself, why don't you think of upgrading yourself into an agent force, skill as well, and then go back to your manager or a supervisor saying, hey, I have now a certification, or I have the upskilling in the Salesforce plus the AI part of it, I would like to explore more roles. Even if there are no, there is not an availability of role in the current organization, you still get a chance to go out in the market and explore for more roles. Even if there is
Mhm.
not an availability for an immediate role within the same organization, your manager still knows that this is a person A who is ready to adapt to new changes. He is somebody who is a continuous learner. He has the AI skills that he was talking about. And now that I also see organizations have these portal where you actually can put up your skill sets that you have, right? So
Mhm.
any new demand that comes in within an organization, right, from different units and different functional units that are working, they actually map your resume so that manager also gets a ping. So somebody out sitting in a different unit can also know that there is a resource who knows that. So at least you get an opportunity to go there and have an interview, right? So that is why I feel, as an individual, when you start exploring your field a little deeper, you start exploring what are the options that are available for me, how can I upskill within my same environment. I don't need to like jump from a Salesforce to a site core, very different, right? So I can go into a particular technology, explore what is available for me, and then there are enough options within the organization or a different organization. At least you land up an interview, right?
Mhm.
So the second
Got it.
part, right, when you go upscale yourself from these courses, uh, apart from just the LinkedIn and the Coursera courses or the Udemy courses, many of these courses are now being published in partnership with the industry companies, right? The industry folks. So there is a course, again, PwC has partnered a course with Udemy or a Coursera out there. So I don't know exactly which website, but we do a partnership in the courses that we release, right? So these are paid industry courses, but then these are relevant because these have been published by a PwC. Now, if you know your target or organization is a PwC, you can go back and get yourself an interview saying, I have a relevant credential that you were looking for. And more than the credential on the resume, it's more about the interview that you have, right? It's more about that. Uh, and I don't know if Rishikesh would agree with me or not, but many of the times when we take interviews, it's broadly skimming the resume if we think it's a relevant resume. And there are tools now, right, to actually pass you through the your resumes to the next level of interview. So
Hmm.
resume is nothing so resume doesn't matter when you have this interview, right? So in the interview, if you land up an interview, it's more about how you sell yourself. And that's the biggest point and the biggest skill that you need to have when you actually try to go into a tech
Sure.
consulting, right? How you sell
Yeah.
yourself. So that is where I see you can make a difference. You can write anything on your resume, and if you
Mhm.
don't know and you can't justify yourself into in an interview, you will never land up that role. So
Yeah.
it's more about A, how you sell yourself, and B, LinkedIn is a very good source where you can network with people. Second is the network that you have around, right? Maybe your friends are in, you have friends, you have, university friends, you have people who work in different industries, your target companies as well. You have your parents who have friends in the network as well, right? So a lot of resumes that float towards us are also a referral kind of resumes through
Mhm.
LinkedIn. Also, some of them are like say relatives, some of them are like friends in the corporate industry, and others are also from the LinkedIn. Somebody would have reached out to, say an ex partner on LinkedIn, and the partner seems interesting with the resume or the profile that is there on LinkedIn. You can
Sure. Yeah.
actually do a lot with the network out
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. So yeah, we'll definitely touch more on that front, like what are the best job search strategies. But Rishikesh, just to bring you into the conversation here with regard to skills, I think you have talked about it, at length with regard to how do you build projects, the tools that you can use, and the way to showcase impact. Just to kind of uh, touch upon the same thing that Mokshita was talking about, what kind of platforms do you believe are generally doing a good job today of helping individuals, not organizations, individuals learn new AI skills for tech consulting purpose? Are there specific educational platforms that you feel are better than the others, perhaps, in your recent experience?
Sure, sure. Before I talk on that, I would just like to say one thing here, right? I mean, if you live your skilling or upgrading to the organization, then I think you need to really set your own priorities right, right? Because I would say it is your own responsibility more than the organization's responsibility to upgrade you, because you are an individual who has evolved from your childhood till the age that you are in and working wherever you are. And you have evolved as an individual, right? So if you want to really go ahead and really make yourself uh, kind of skilled enough for your own employability, and you are wanting to also, I mean, it's just not just employability but also to know what is happening out there in the world, right? Because it is part and parcel of your life as well as what you are doing in your life, right? So I think
Mhm.
that to me is very important, that don't think about like the organization, or don't wait for the organization to upgrade yourself. I would say thanks to the internet today, probably when I was studying, the internet was not widely available, that is the way it is as today. I mean, today I would say the best educator is like your YouTube, right? You just have like so much content there which is still untapped.
Right.
uh, and to answer your question whether I should go to a platform which is like really giving me an education on AI, I would say just open the YouTube. Like, I mean, it is totally free. Like, I mean, you can get any kind of
So,
content.
Rishikesh, to play devil's
Yeah,
advocate, because we get
yeah,
this question from a lot of people,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
See, from an educational perspective, you are probably right. But let's say to showcase your commitment, your seriousness, your
sure,
credibility, would
sure,
like a lot of people say, hey, you know what? I'm thinking about a short certificate from Coursera or from Udemy, or I have built a project using YouTube, versus going for, let's say, a master's degree
sure,
related to AIML. Now, would
sure.
you consider all three candidates, somebody who has built a project using YouTube, somebody who has a Coursera certification, and somebody who has actual master's degree from a tier one, tier two college in AIML related
Yeah, yeah.
subject matter? Are they
Yeah.
all at an equal playing field, or is there any difference?
So I would put it on two parameters, right? One is it will also be up to the hiring manager or the organization, the thinking pattern, the ethos on how they hire, right? So that would be one parameter. The second I would say is what role I'm hiring for, right? Because obviously, if I'm hiring for a specialist role into an AI engineer, I would definitely want somebody who has had that experience. And to me, it won't really matter whether he has a degree, but if he has, like, if that person brings in like 4 years of hands-on AI experience, I would go for him, right? So I think it would be very individual, or it would be an organization decision on how and what kind of profiles they would like to hire. I mean, coming back to like the earlier point, I would say that, like, today the content is really free. Like, if you go on YouTube, there is so much content, and for you to keep on upgrading, I don't think there is an issue. If you don't have a degree, I mean, I would say, like, again, this is my personal opinion, but having a certificate versus having an actual on, like, hands-on experience, and it might be your own freelance project or like a hobby project that you do, where you can actually show the knowledge, and you can demonstrate in an interview saying, hey, this is my project, or send it with your resume, or send it with the email that you send to them. I think if you can really demonstrate and show that you are serious about it, you understand stuff, I think people are willing to take bet on people, right? So today, I don't, like, at least in my experience, the network that I have, I don't think that people are fixated with a degree or a certificate. I think probably gone are the days where people are saying, no, if you don't have a certificate, I'll not hire you for this role, right? I mean, there might be, I'm not saying, I'm not generalizing this. There might be specific expertise, like if somebody is working on, as Mokshita mentioned, like Salesforce platforms or SAP platforms, you obviously need the platform expertise. So you need to get certified on those platforms. But again, there you have to keep on upgrading yourself, right? So it again
Mhm.
comes to upskilling. But just to summarize, I would say, like, the content is available, right? And you are like the master of your story, so you
Yeah.
need to really really kind of make things happen and show that you're serious about the role that you are actually interested in, or the skill that you want to develop for yourself.
Got it.
Also, I have like a slightly different view here also, in terms of the degree part, right? So there are, so I say there are roles available for both the categories, right? There are times when we hire specifically with a, for that degree, right? So a lot of hiring that we do, we want a person who has done that research, who has the PhD in a particular domain, because we want him for a particular role, right? Or we want to deploy that resource for a client engagement who has asked for a particular certification or a particular degree, right?
Mhm.
So that's where we prefer the degree part of it. But when you're looking for, individuals to actually grow the organization, to bring in AI or tech into the organization, and then lead for the organization specifically, then degree is not something, right, that only matters. It's also about the experience that you bring in. So there are roles available for both the categories, is what I would say.
Got it. Okay, I think this is helpful, and we should start taking up some questions from the audience here, because there are a lot of them right now, and I'm sure there might be more coming in soon. Although I do want to double click on a couple of the things that Rishikesh and Mokshita you both shared, but perhaps after some of these questions. So, first question we have from Narendra, I'll share it here on screen as well. What are the typical KPIs for a tech consultant? Very straightforward, to the point question. Mokshita, you want to take a stab at this one?
Definitely. So, as a tech consultant, your primary role, so I say you need to communicate well, right? So, if there is a complex idea that you are trying to pitch into your customer, right, you need to clearly put it down into bullets, or, clearly advise what you're suggesting. So, one of the KPIs that I feel as a tech consultant, even above tech, is how you communicate your idea, right? Second is about solving your complex business problem, right? So as a tech consultant, you should understand your domain, right? Technology, right? So there are times when you would even ask to be, to create a block diagram or an architectural diagram of the solution that you're trying to pitch in, right? While there are architects available who are deep tech architects also in the company, but then if you're a tech consultant and if you don't understand what that diagram is all about, then I think you don't play your role well, right? You should be able to even at least question the architect, saying, why this and why not that. So to be able to suggest
Mhm.
alternatives, because it's all about creating the optimized and the best version of the solution that you present to the client, right? Both in terms of pricing and also in terms of the solution, right? So that's the second KPI that I feel is important for a tech consultant. Third is the business domain, because consultants, it's all about the domain. Do you understand the area? Do you understand the sector? Do you understand the pain points of that sector, the trends, right? So that's the third important area that I think are majorly are the KPIs for a tech consultant. And if Rishikesh wants to add.
Yeah, Rishikesh, any
Yeah.
measurable metrics that
Yeah.
you have seen to be the most critical at your organization or other related
Yeah.
ones?
Yeah. See, I would say because I mean, typically in consulting, you work on different projects, right? So it totally, I would slightly make it subjective because the nature of the project will define what output is expected out of you. Because the nature of the case or a project can be just doing a due diligence, tech due diligence for an organization. It might be just looking at their CRM solution. It might be like an end-to-end, like a grounds-up build of applications and taking it to market, GTM, etc. Right. So it will depend on the nature of the project or the specific role that you have been asked to play in that project. Right. So that is I would say the flavor of how you work in a tech consulting role, specifically in the consulting firms like say PwC or BCG. I would say with that, right? So with this as your horizon or like the frame that you need to operate in. Again, if you have a specific skill, right? So for example, you are an ERP expert or you are a cybersecurity expert, then obviously your KPIs belong to the project that you are supposed to come in, look at the architecture of the client, kind of look at where they are lacking, where they can do better, or if they need like a grounds up greenfield strategy, if
Sure.
they're expanding into
Are
different
there any
geographies.
general KPIs, Rishikesh, apart from
Uh,
project based?
Not like I just like it is project deliveries. So general KPIs, I won't be able to quantify, but having the right expertise, right, like communication, problem solving, and client relationships, right? Client, when I say client, it is internal clients as well as external clients. So if you really think of that, you should be able to kind of deliver on all these parameters.
Got it. Just, I mean, two, three things which we have heard of, and I want to know more is what about like typically, allocation of resources on the project, like how you're optimizing the project management aspect and, cost to build, time to take into build and deploy. Like, are these things as common in tech consulting as they are in IT services firms typically, or not that much?
Yeah, it depends. Again, I mean, as I said, like, if it's an end-to-end build, at least in my experience, depending on the project budget, the client budget, right? You have to obviously adjust on what kind of output and
Sure.
whatever, like wherever you need to pull up the levers to make sure that it is cost effective, time effective, you have to do that.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, let's take up the next question here. So, we have a pretty interesting question that many consulting roles, especially Gen AI practices and COEs, don't show up on public job boards. How do you recommend that candidates identify and access these hidden opportunities? And how do consulting firms balance internal capability building versus hiring external specialists for these AI COEs? Very good. So, I think we can break it down into two parts. One is how do candidates identify these hidden opportunities which consulting firms might be not advertising on job boards, and second is how do consulting firms balance the internal capability building versus hiring external specialists? Mokshita, you want to go
Uh,
first again, or?
so for the first part, well, I don't know. I mean, I have seen if there's a job requirement that requires you to have an AI or a Gen AI capability, that's often being quoted because that's the crux of the job that you want somebody to do it. Now it's there in the job description, at least, that I think. But if you
I think
still
Mokshita,
feel,
sorry to clarify, maybe you are already saying this, but I feel like the question is saying that it's not that the job is posted, but the JD is incomplete. I think is that
Hmm.
the job is sometimes not itself posted because they are maybe hiring internally, or they're
Ah,
doing a very specialized search using a search firm or a headhunting firm or something like that.
got it. Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
That happens, right? And to, an alternative to this is also that the job is already given to somebody. I know, the identified person for the role already, and then I'm posting for it just because I wanted to complete the formalities, and it should go through a process of hiring. So that's there, right? You can't really do much about it if it's not there in the public domain, right? You would never know if that existed ever, right? So the best way to even look out for any open opportunities is also to reach out to your network, right? If you can understand and know if there are open opportunities, right? Like for example, I have an opening in my team where I need somebody, right? But because external hiring would take longer time and I need a person immediately, say within a month, right? So I might not go about the whole process of posting it online. And it's not just about finding somebody, it's also about the entire HR process that it will take, and then getting somebody onboarded as well. So I would rather prefer, if I can find somebody within the ecosystem itself, right? So but I have it in my mind, right? It's not posted. I know there is a requirement. There are similar requirements in my teammates area as well. So it's more about when we share it with our friends, and that the word of mouth, or the candidate who's actually looking out for it can explore through the network that they have, especially with Pivot, right? How you guys share the resumes with your network and with the mentors that are onboarded with you.
Mhm.
It opens up an opportunity for them, right? Because every time I look at the email and the resume that is attached to it, I can actually see, hey, this is a role that I was looking for, or this is a role that somebody else was looking for in my company, and I can refer back. So that really helps, right? The network really helps here. But if it's not
Sure.
there in the public domain, you can't really help.
Do
It's
much
not
about
there.
that. Got it. Rishikesh, you want to take up the second part of the question more in terms of the organizational perspective. How much are companies balancing internal capability building versus hiring external specialists?
Yeah, so see, definitely, I would say it is like a demand and supply kind of the question here. Uh, the roles that we're talking about, AI and data, ML, cybersecurity, these are like very high demand role, like specifically the AI roles. Uh, there is obviously the organizations are promoting upskilling to make sure that their existing workforce kind of upgrades, but again, as I said, like not everybody is interested or wants to do it, so it is again left to the personal choice. But at the same time, if there is demand, which is there right now in the in case of consulting, where a lot of clients are asking for AI specialties and AI expertise, then it's a mix and balance of both, right? So there are people who are, or there are companies that are hiring for these specific roles, because you will not necessarily like always find it internally, because again, all the consulting firms were not doing just AI before this, right? So there were different topics on which everybody has been working, and AI, I would say, is still a relatively evolving and a recent topic. So people who have done that before and are in the market are surely in demand, right? And if you don't see it, my only suggestion would be, if you don't see it on a job portal, and if you're interested in consulting, just reach out to somebody, and you should definitely hear back from people, because that's the need of the hour, and everybody's looking for it. So just reach out to people on LinkedIn or through your network. As Mokshita mentioned, just write to people that, hey, I'm looking. If you have it in your consulting firm, please let me know. But I would say like AI is definitely the requirement and what people are looking for any consulting firm.
And the reason, right, why we look out for somebody outside the organization is also because we want them to bring in what is happening in their world, right? Something that is not happening in PwC already, for example, right? If I'm trying to hire somebody as a partner at PwC from say the likes of a telecom big brand, I want the external participant to come in, because I know, say for example, the telecom practice here needs some expert from outside, right? From a industry, and that's why I'm looking out for an external role. So a lot of time, when we look out for these external roles, these are also for specialists, for people who will bring in something that is not already existing within the firm, right? So if there is a person out there who has great AI skills. And by nature, as PwC, we don't really are born with tech or with AI, right? It's not a culture in consulting to build something or something. So I would always appreciate somebody coming from outside, because they will again bring in something additional to the firm, right? So that is also a reason of how to make a choice between an internal upskilling versus an external hiring.
See, I would just like one point on this before we move ahead. I would just summarize it in, according to me, how you should think about it. See, if you are working in an industry, you really have an hands-on experience, right? Which will never go not demanded in the industry, because you have done things by your own hands and got your hands dirty. So anybody specifically in consulting would definitely want somebody who has deep expertise or understanding and have done things themselves, because that is what the client is also looking for from the client, from the consulting firms, right? So you need to really think about that your skill is in demand. And specifically, again, if you're talking about AI or data science, etc., here your skill is definitely in demand. As I said, like, what you need to really do is package your profile properly, have the right communications, make sure that you understand, like, have your like mindset tuned to more problem solving and not problem creation. And lastly, you need to like really do client management, right? Because that's the nature of the work. So if you really go, like, the big difference when we are working in a product company is that you are really trying to go deep, and your own like, people know the product, right? Because everybody is working in the same company, the same product, they know each other well, they know the product well. But when you are actually going to a client, there is a different kind of expectation, because you have been called on the table to give or present a certain expertise, right? And that expertise need to really be presented in a way that both the client is what he or she is looking for, and what you can portray in the best way, right? Because there is a firm angle that you need to always make sure that you account for it.
Fair enough. All right. I think we have covered that fairly exhaustively. So I'll just move on to the next question quickly. And I think, Mokshita, you might have slightly alluded to this indirectly in your last answer. But the question is, if someone is currently in a service based firm's AI, Gen AI practice, what's the best way to position that when applying to consulting roles in partner firms? So I think one of the things both of you have mentioned is in regard with when you're looking for that build experience, right? Rather than just advisory, you've actually built the product. And if
Yeah,
consulting
absolutely.
firms are looking for that capability, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, in consulting firms specifically, it's more about how you build a wrapper around it, right? So, there are enough products out there in the market which are AI tech products, right? But when specifically in the consulting and the tech consulting firms, what we look out for in an individual is if he's able to understand the business need and is able to marry it with the tech product that is out there, right? So if you know how to wrapper it around with the with the consulting lens, if you can bring in that business and not sell the product but sell a solution and promise an outcome to the client, that's what we are looking for. So that's how you should structure your experience if you're looking for a consulting role specifically.
Yeah,
Rishikesh,
just
anything you want to
package
add?
it. Yeah, just package it. As I said, like, I mean, if you have the expertise, you need to really present it in the way that a consulting firm can also present it to their client, right? Because that is how the process works. And if you have the expertise, you need to really make sure that you are telling the right story.
Okay. All right. Um, Mokshita, there's a question around your transition from GCC to tech consulting. What made you decide that? What mattered to you most? I think you have touched upon this as well during the course of different answers. Do you want to just, I know we are running out of time a little bit, so do you want to just briefly share the most key points with regard to your transition from GCC to tech consulting?
The motive or the reason behind it was primarily from the fact that I wanted to end up into a business world, right? So it was not just about working on a particular tech that I was doing back then. It was more about because I loved problem solving, and I knew that I wanted to just not work in a particular domain. So the pivot areas and the pivot points were also to upskill myself from that role, right? I realized that within the GCC I might not be able to change roles that easily. I can't go from just a tech person to a tech plus a functional person, right? So consulting was the area that I knew I would want to go, because here I can be a tech plus a functional person as well. So a techno functional role. So primarily that was the reason. Consulting was that choice. I tried upskilling myself on the way, right? Did a product management course, because just to understand the business lens of, why a product is built, understanding the
Mhm.
user need. And then eventually when I got an opportunity to interview at PwC, it came very handy, right? So the user part of it and understanding the business needs came very handy. So that was how it happened.
All right, great. And very quickly, the last question. Rishikesh, maybe we'll have you answer this one. How are consulting firms looking at talent from tech industry with AI skills? So I guess product tech industry is what I would assume is the question about. Like if somebody has worked at product tech and trying to transition to tech consulting roles, how would they do that?
Yeah, as I said, like I mean, any industry experience specifically in AI right now is in huge demand, right? So if you have worked in the industry, there is demand for your skills, and as I said, like you need to really um like if you have hands-on worked on AI and you build products with AI, I think definitely. I mean, it's all about kind of making sure that you tell your story. I'm going back to my earlier point, but I can't stress more on the fact that you if you have an AI on your profile, you are in demand. So I will just try to summarize it that way.
Right.
So just make sure that you are able to kind of, as Mokshita mentioned, that you have the problem solving mindset, you have the communications, you have the presentation skills, because that is what the nature of the job in consulting is, right? Along with obviously your expertise and understanding. So it is definitely in demand, and like consultants or consulting firms work across industries, right? So I'm sure wherever you're working, that industry is part of the consulting projects that any of our consulting firms do, right? So if you have the expertise, if you know the industries, the domain, definitely.
Perfect. I think that brings us to a close for
Yeah.
today's session. And um, I can't thank you enough, Rishikesh and Mokshita, for sharing all of your experience and insights. I think there was a lot of recurring points. I hope that got cemented in people's mind who joined today, especially with regard to developing practical knowledge, not just theoretical, and showcasing it properly in your job applications and networking, all of those things. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining, sharing everything you did, and big thanks to everyone who engaged with us, joined us during the festive season. I hope everyone has a great rest of the evening, and happy Dashera to those who are celebrating tomorrow.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Arjun.
Thanks,
It was a
Arjun.
great
Thanks,
time
Mokshita.
chatting.